What's up, everybody? Today's video is the player who traded a life of suffering for one single trophy. My name is Greg. I'm an American living abroad in Spain, learning the beautiful game of football one reaction video at a time with your help. Cruising towards 5,000 subscribers. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you can be a part of my brain trust, as I like to call it. This is brought to you by the Daily Dose of Football. We'll definitely include a link in the description so you can go and show them some love. They have 599,000 subscribers. You might as well get them another 5,000, get them up to about 604 or 5,000. I'm sure they would appreciate that. So this was actually a recommendation that was given to me by Blue Gato 1229. You know who you are out there, Blue Gato. I definitely appreciate you sharing it with me here. I want to take a look at it. So this is about Marco Reus. And it says here, new video about one of the most talked about players we've seen over the 2010s in football. In this episode, we take a look at Marco Reus, who played for Dortmund, Borussia Mönchengladbach, oh my God, for most of his career, and even rejected Bayern after his friends Götze and Lewandowski betrayed him. Oh my God, this sounds like it's going to be something interesting. All right, let's go.
So listen to this. Ramon Calderon once called Guti the eternal promise. This might sound like a paradox, but it isn't. Guti was never judged on how good he was, but on how good he could become. By never taking that jump, he kept himself young in the eyes of the fans, even when his career was close to its end. But this video isn't about Guti. It's about someone else who reminds me of him.
I was about to say, I'm like, well, I thought this was about Reus.
But this video isn't about Guti. It's about someone else who reminds me of him. Just like Guti, Marco Reus is this generation's Peter Pan, the boy who refused to grow up. You look back on his time at Dortmund and generations of players have come and gone while Reus stood in one place. Bellingham, Haaland, Sancho, Pulisic, Gundogan, Dembele, Aubameyang, Götze, Lewandowski.
So from what I understand, he was the only one who stayed because Dortmund Borussia is a club that a lot of players go there, they develop and they leave and go make a lot of money somewhere else. So is that correct? He's the player that stayed?
Sancho, Pulisic, Gundogan, Dembele, Aubameyang, Götze, Lewandowski. As Marco himself said, it's unbelievable how fast the time passes. Suddenly, I'm one of the older players and there's no way to get that time back. You can notice a hint of regret in that sentence, and well, I get it. While all of those other players went on to other clubs, winning several trophies and leaving their names permanently etched in the history books, Reus stayed and lived a career of pain and suffering, always getting close but never really getting a taste of any meaningful silverware. He was a jewel of a footballer, one of the most talented young players in the world, and one who was always resilient and hardworking. He had everything working in his favor, except for one thing. As Adebayor once said, even shaking his hand was enough to get him injured. Yeah, his injury record is something out of a horror movie. 68 different injuries, nearly...
What the hell? What if that played a role in him not being able to leave because he was always injured, so he probably didn't have value? I don't know.
Something out of a horror movie. 68 different injuries, nearly 5 injuries per season on average. So it shouldn't be surprising that every time glory was within his reach, injury struck him down. Often even watching from home as his teammates took all the glory, while his presence loomed around like a ghost, often in the shape of an empty t-shirt. In fact, what pushed me to make this video to write about this man's life is that on the 27th of May, if Dortmund manages to beat mid-table Mainz, Reus, the unluckiest football player in the world, will finally catch a break. His curse will finally come to an end, a curse which has arguably been following him all of his life because, you see, it's funny. If you ask him, he will tell you that when he was a kid, his biggest wish was to be just like Rosicki. That was all he wanted, but the thing about Rosicki is that he too was made of glass. From his knee to his ankle, it was always one surgery after the other. I guess you really do have to be careful what you wish for. But moving on, you know something else that I feel people have a tendency to forget? Dortmund rejected Reus at first. He's been disloyal to them despite the fact they literally told him to his face he'd never make it as a footballer. The guy was 17, already daydreaming about getting a chance at the first team. It was all he cared about in the whole world, yet dedicated his entire life to it. And suddenly, one day, he's benched, then the coach subs him on as a defender, and right then he knew something was fishy. And just a few days later, he was dismissed from the academy on the account that he was simply too skinny.
Wow. That's it? Because he was too skinny? Man, cutthroat out there.
Days later, he was dismissed from the academy on the account that he was simply too skinny. Thankfully, despite admitting this was one of the most painful moments of his life, Reus hit back so hard that it would end up costing Dortmund 17 million euros to fix their mistake. But still, their lack of belief in Reus didn't end there. So imagine this, with nowhere to go, Reus finds himself playing for Rot-Weiss Hallen in the German 3rd division. Ironically enough, he's set up with a housemate, Grosskreutz, another Dortmund reject. And of course, to add assault to injury, Grosskreutz is given a place in the first team while Reus is kept in the B team. Even after 2 years, despite Reus having joined the first team as well, having helped them to achieve promotion and having even made sure they didn't get relegated straight back down, once Dortmund came looking to right their wrongs, Reus was ignored once again while his housemate Grosskreutz was welcomed back to the club.
Man, it's like they don't even deserve him. They keep giving him the shaft like that.
Reus was ignored once again while his housemate Grosskreutz was welcomed back to the club. And that's the story of how Reus eventually settled for the other Borussia, the one in Mönchengladbach. However, that did not stop him from taking over the spotlight. In his first
Mönchengladbach. That's what I was trying to say earlier.
Gladbach. However, that did not stop him from taking over the spotlight. In his first season, he introduced himself to the public with a debut goal that saw him go on a spectacular 50-meter solo run. Then, he quickly became a key player for his team and even ended up being called up to the national team for the first time. Though, of course, he had to drop out of that at the last minute with an illness stopping him in his tracks. Keep this in mind, it will become a familiar feeling. Regardless, by his second season, he was already the team's top scorer, but that actually wasn't a reason to celebrate. The fact his 10 league goals were enough to put him on top of their list was a good indication as to why his team spent most of their season at the very bottom of the table, only barely managing to qualify to the relegation playoffs, where of course Reus had to be the one to show up and score the late goal that would keep them in the top flight. Regardless, as he went into his third season at the club, the season that would change his life forever, he also happened to be called up for the national team for the fourth time, and just like every time before that, an injury stopped him from actually getting his international debut. But focusing on the bright side for a bit, that year, despite the shenanigans his team had pulled the previous season, Reus became his team's star player, carrying everyone on his back and dominating the Bundesliga. I'm talking world-class stats, 21 goals, 14 assists, all in just 37 matches, which was more than enough to completely save Mönchengladbach from whatever had just happened to them. This time around finishing in 4th place, not only earning Reus the award for Young Player of the Year, but also the Big Boy Award itself, the award for Player of the Season. And of course, he not only finally got his international debut, but also made enough of an impact that he ended up being called up to the Euros, where he was not given a chance at first, leading him to criticize the coach, who actually caved in and allowed him to play against Greece in the quarterfinals, where of course, he made sure to score. Add to that another good show in a defeat against Italy in the semi-finals, and even though Reus would not take a single trophy that season, seemingly everyone in the world had found their new favorite young player. At that moment, he could have joined seemingly any team in the world, but instead, even after all they had done to him, he chose to join Dortmund. Though, in all fairness, it was probably the best ever time to join them. With Jurgen Klopp at the helm, despite Bayern's usual monopoly, they had just taken 2 consecutive Bundesliga titles, something no other club had managed to do since 1982. After all, we are talking about a team that was stacked with talent.
Wait. Okay, so Dortmund Borussia took 2 titles. I think that's what he's saying.
Best ever time to join them. With Jurgen Klopp at the helm, despite Bayern's usual monopoly, they had just taken 2 consecutive Bundesliga titles, something no other club had managed to do since 1982. After all, we are talking about a team that was stacked with talent, but honestly, things didn't go so well for Reus at first. I mean, he did get 19 goals and 16 assists, instantly settling himself as one of the biggest names in the squad, and his relationship with Lewandowski and Götze was easily one of the most beautiful and entertaining to watch in over a decade. But well, after winning just 4 out of their first 10 league matches, that trophy was already out of the equation. I mean, just take into consideration that despite bouncing back tremendously with 12 wins over a span of 15 matches, they still only managed the second place finish 25 points below Bayern.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And of course, you may say that after that poor start, they might as well just focus on the other competitions. And well, they did. They literally went on one of the greatest Champions League runs of all time, opening the tournament by going unbeaten in the group stage, with Reus scoring 3 goals over that period that secured key draws against Man City and Real Madrid. Then, after a relatively easy draw against Shakhtar in the last 16, Reus proved essential once again, putting up a masterful performance.
There's a stadium I definitely want to go to.
Reus proved essential.
I want to go there one day.
Once again, putting up a masterful performance versus Malaga that saw him assist a goal that would draw the match, only for them to go behind again, with Reus then scoring in the dying minutes of the match as Dortmund somehow turned it all around without even going into extra time. Add to this a 4-3 humbling of Real Madrid, with Reus once again assisting 2 of the goals, and suddenly, despite whatever happened at the start of the season, they were 1 match away from being champions of Europe. But sadly, this fairy tale was more of a horror movie for Reus of Europe. But sadly, this fairy tale was more of a horror movie for Reus.
You get injured again? God.
Because the team that awaited them in the final was Bayern Munich, and this time they were scared, and they used everything they had in order to...
Bayern Munich? Does he mean München?
Munich, and this time they were scared, and they used everything they had in order to swing the game in their direction. The first thing they knew they had to do was to disrupt the magnificent trio of Götze, Reus and Lewandowski. So 1 month before the final, they shocked everyone by announcing the signing of Mario Götze. This was a massive betrayal, and Götze knew it. In fact, he was so scared of our...
Wait. Let me understand that.
They shocked everyone by announcing the signing of Mario Götze. 1 month was to disrupt the magnificent trio of Götze, Reus and Lewandowski. So 1 month before the final, they...
1 month before the final? They're able to sign someone?
shocked everyone by announcing the signing of Mario Götze. This was a massive betrayal, and Götze knew it. In fact, he was so scared of how Reus would react that even before the deal was announced, he showed up at his doorstep to ask him for forgiveness. Look, I would bring up karma and talk about how right after all of that, Götze got injured and ended up missing the chance to play in that final. But well, Dortmund lost that match, even though Reus once again performed well and even earned a penalty that would level the match temporarily. Robin then killed their dream with the very last shot on target of the match. To make matters worse, soon after the final, afraid to miss the boat, Lewandowski succumbed to their approaches as well and joined Götze at Bayern, leaving Reus trophyless and alone. And of course, it would be foolish to think that Bayern didn't try to sign Reus as well. Of course they did. In fact, the man himself made sure to say that they had been in contact with him since the Mönchengladbach days, and still added, "Bayern will never have me. Money isn't everything to me." And well,
gotta have respect for that. That's awesome. Wonder why he didn't like them. Well, I mean, maybe it was like the principal, because they were trying to give him all this money. He was like, "No, I'm not going over there because I don't want your money." It's not about that. But I wonder why he didn't like him. Like, I don't know.
Bayern will never have me. Money isn't everything to me. And well, it was this philosophy that set him on a quest for glory that would stretch for an entire decade before he ever arrived in the promised land. So, bear with me for a second. Refusing to look in the rearview mirror, Reus let go of the time spent with Lewa and Götze and embraced his new teammate Aubameyang, hitting the highest numbers of his career, totaling 45 goal contributions in just 3,500 minutes of football. I swear there was a moment there where it seemed he would get a goal and an assist every single match. And still, it was just more of the same. In the Champions League, not even a brace against Real Madrid was enough to keep them in the competition. In the league, they were run over by Bayern, and in the cup, despite making it to the final, you guessed it, Bayern beat them again. Sure, Reus still got the awards for Player of the Season and Top Assist Provider, but that was far from enough. Maybe the one thing that would have eased the pain that year was a call-up to the World Cup, which obviously he got, but only 10 days before the opening match in what was literally the last preparation match before the tournament. He got into what looked like a minor knock, nothing special. The game literally just carried on, but Reus wasn't getting up, and once they went back to check
Did he tear his Achilles?
on him, the worst was confirmed. He was once again injured and out of the tournament. Mustafi ended up being called up in his place, and Reus got to watch from home as one of the most heavily criticized players in Europe got to lift a World Cup trophy in his place. He got to watch as his friend who betrayed him lifted up his shirt trying to make amends for the mistakes of the
Nah, buddy. I mean, I guess he can ask for forgiveness, but
as his friend who betrayed him lifted up his shirt trying to make amends for the mistakes of the past. Maybe it was a psychological turmoil that stemmed from this traumatic moment, but the next season would be the worst in Reus's career. He would start the year by being caught driving without a license, being sent into the middle of a media storm, all while Dortmund was shockingly sitting below the relegation line midway through the season. Add to that 6 injuries and another defeat to Bayern in the German Cup final, and you probably get why it was a season to forget. Maybe the only good bit of that season was the comic relief provided by Ina Maria Schnitzer, a model who offered to drive him around after he lost his license in return for one of 2 things, his love or a transfer to Bayern. The following season he did get back to good form under Tuchel, but all that got him was, you guessed it, another defeat in the German Cup final to Bayern. Oh, and of course, in the league, they became the proud holders of the record for most points accumulated by a team that still finished second.
Ah, damn it. I was confused because I thought he was saying the most point.
Record for most points accumulated by a team that's...
No, that says Bayern Munich instead of München. I'm saying one of them wrong.
Still finished second. Yeah, that was already a tough pill to swallow, and his year would only get worse when on his birthday, he was informed by the national team's medical staff that he would be out of the tournament once again, as despite not being injured, their exams led them to believe there was no way he could make it through the tournament without getting hurt. And well, guess what?
What the hell? Think they can decide that? Because you might get hurt, you can't play?
Once again, as despite not being injured, their exams led them to believe there was no way he could make it through the tournament without getting hurt. And well, guess what? They were right. Before the next season even started, Reus was out with a pelvic injury. That left him out for 3 months. Later that season, another injury left him out for a month and a half. And in the last match of the season, once again in the German Cup final, as Dortmund were en route to finally take the trophy, Reus ruptured his ACL midway through the game and ended up watching from the bench as his teammates finally got the job done. And of course, with an injury like that, he missed the entire first half of the following season. In a year where he was literally voted to be on the cover of FIFA 17, something normally only reserved for Ronaldo and Messi, he ended up spending 8 months on the sidelines. By the end of that season, Reus finally managed to step foot in a World Cup, and what he got from that was a participation medal in the most disappointing tournament in Germany's history. By then, between that, the injuries, and the departure of Mats Hummels,
wait, is that... Which World Cup was that?
and what he got from that was a participation medal in the most disappointing tournament in Germany's history. By then, between that, the injuries, and the departure of Mats Hummels to Bayern, you could find articles about his career referring to themselves as obituaries. In the eyes of many, the era of Reus was dead and gone. And according to the biggest newspaper in the country, Reus was the unluckiest person in Germany. However,
wow.
it was there that a strange revival began, with the player being named as the new team captain and then getting 34 goal contributions in 36 matches, leading Dortmund to the top of the table with just 7 matches to go, having at one moment led by 9 points. Only for Reus to miss 7 matches between a red card suspension and a hamstring injury, and watching as Dortmund allowed Bayern to slip 2 points in front of them and take the title. Following one more injury-riddled season, Reus arrived in 2020 with young talents like Sancho and Haaland around him, and suddenly there was some hope, even if they also worked as constant reminders of how old he had gotten. But with the pandemic around, things got complicated, and even if on their second season together they did win another German Cup, with Reus now seeming fitter, it was also notable that his speed was diminishing at a rate like never before.
Okay. I was looking for him. That's him right in the middle.
Fitter, it was also notable that his speed was diminishing at a rate like never before now that he was into his 30s, and this led him to make a drastic decision to willingly skip out on the Euros, spending the summer working to strengthen his biological weak points, in hopes that a year later he'd be ready for the World Cup in Qatar. And well, Reus played incredibly the following season, accumulating more goal contributions than he had in a long time, but as his participation in the World Cup got closer and closer to becoming a reality, with 50 days left to go, his ankle gave out. Fortunately, the doctors told him he could make it back.
This is just crazy. He keeps getting injured. Wow.
Left to go, his ankle gave out. Fortunately, the doctors told him he could make it back in time, but knowing Reus, maybe they should have known things tend to go for the worse when it comes to his injuries, and of course, they did. The inflammation on his ankle just refused to heal, and once again Reus missed the World Cup through injury. And with that said, we arrive at the present day where, despite having lost his place as a regular starter in the team, nothing matters because Reus is a win away from finally taking the Bundesliga title and being rewarded for his loyalty. But on the other hand, after all Bayern has won over the last 10 years, you've got to ask yourself, what if Reus had left for Bayern? So,
well, I mean, he would have been injured. Sounds like. Let me see. This is in 2023. So, damn, did they win Bundesliga in, I guess, 2024? I wonder. Let me see. Bayern Munich won 2024, 2025 Bundesliga title. Damn. So did he still not win? Man. That's tough. He just always is injured. Sometimes I guess that happens. Some people never get injured, but that's unfortunate because he seemed like he had some potential. Although it never really seemed like he was like great. You know, like on the levels of Neymar or Messi or Ronaldo or Ronaldinho or Iniesta, like any of those. He didn't seem like he was on that level, but he was obviously good, but that's unfortunate. Well, let's take a look here, see what the people got to say here. Let me go ahead and get on over to this and check it out. Okay, I'm here for Dortmund bottled the title once again. After Dortmund bottled the title once again. Feel so damn sorry for this man. Dang. And he still didn't win it today. Marco Reus, that was 2 years ago, is the reason why I chose Dortmund as my favorite Bundesliga club. Loyalty. What a player he once was too. I can't believe he just lost it. It's actually heartbreaking. It really is. That's unfortunate. All right. Well, if you stuck around this long, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, like the video, because the algorithm likes it. You know how YouTube works. But as always, I really do appreciate you stopping by, and we will see you on the next video. Peace.